terribly. So we'll do that, and then I have no idea what we'll do after. Maybe we'll stop streaming bridge and take up a new hobby. Alright, anyways. So last time we were talking about minor suit openings and different continuations. Possibly, yeah, possibly. Continuations over minor suit openings. So first off, we talked about raise structure. So we talked about how we can use one of a minor, two spades as a mixed raise. We could use inverted minors for game force, crisscross for a limit raise, and then just a jump as weak. So we can cover all four raises that way. So for a mixed raise example, there's a hand like this. And assume North opens a diamond, and South is sitting on an 8 count with 5 diamonds. You know, it's not weak. It's not good enough to be a limit. It's like the in-betweener hand. So over a diamond, they jump to 2 spades, and then the South hand here, you know, with just a 14 count, would probably park it in 3 diamonds. But it serves two purposes. One, it shows your hand. At the same time, it could also be a potential blocking bid, depending on what kind of fits the opponents have, particularly in the majors. The other caveat is the one hand type that's difficult to show over a diamond opening is the invitational hand with clubs. The invitational hand with clubs is difficult, whereas the robots bid use 3 clubs there as invitational, we use it as crisscross. And, you know, we play 2/1 game forcing, and we don't play 2/1 game forcing except suit rebid. So the invitational club hand is like the one hand type that's lost in the 2/1 when you don't play suit the suit as non-forcing. So what you can do is with that type of hand, you can use 2 spades as not only a mixed raise, but you could also use it as a mixed raise or clubs, which forces your partner to bid 2 diamonds. Like on this previous hand, for example, if I can show it. Why does it not show? Alright, here we go. Like on the previous hand, for example, over a diamond, South jumps to 2 spades, which forces 2 no from the responder. And now South bids 3 diamonds to confirm it was a mixed raise in diamonds. Whereas here, with this invitational hand in clubs, and North opens a diamond, now South jumps to 2 spades again, North bids 2 no to ask, and South now bids 3 clubs to confirm an invitational jump in clubs. And they can play 3 clubs and be in what might be their best fit. Turns out diamonds is a better fit here. Well, not really, but you get the point. It's just a different way to show that hand because we don't have it available to us in our raise structure and how we play 2/1. So we talked about that, and we talked about some additional conventions that are helpful with minor suit openings. First one being XYZ, which is also just two-way new minor forcing with the extension that the last suit bid does not have to be 1 no trumpets after any 3/1 level bids. The idea being that 2 clubs forces 2 diamonds to show an array of invitational hands, and that 2 diamonds is a game force. So on this hand, for example, North opens a diamond. Yes. North opens a diamond, South bids a heart. North bids a no trump, and now South bids 2 clubs, which forces 2 diamonds. And over 2 diamonds, South bids 2 hearts to show an invitational hand with at least 5 hearts. Now, the North hand with a 14 count in 3 hearts is certainly going to take this to game, and that's where it'll play. May not make, necessarily, depending on how you guess the heart suit, but you should be there, and that system allows you to get there. You would have gotten there with standard new minor forcing also, but the advantage of two-way is, A, you can play 2 diamonds, but there's a lot more power to it, especially for showing like different types of hands. Now for this hand, for example, you would change this up. North would open a diamond, South would bid a heart, North would bid a no trump again, and now South would bid 2 diamonds game forcing. North would just now, their priorities are kind of like what they are over standard new minor forcing, where you show 4 of the other major, 3 of the major, and so on and so forth. So here, North would just bid 2 hearts, and they would get to 4 hearts that way too. We talked about reverse Flannery. Reverse Flannery being a way in which you could show a 5-4 hand in the majors that is less than invitational strength. If it's invitational, you can go through two-way new minor forcing. If it's at least game forcing, you can go through, once again, XYZ with the game force. And if it's 5-5 game forcing, well, then you can just bid two hearts. It could just go one of a minor, one spade, one no, two hearts. The hand that gets lost is the 5-4 less than invite hand, and that's where reverse Flannery comes into play. So this hand, for example, you know, I don't play what the robots play, which is where you bid one spade and two hearts is non-forcing. So what you do is over a diamond, you jump to two hearts. You lose the weak jump shift in hearts, but you gain the ability to show this hand pretty clearly. So North opens a diamond, South jumps to two hearts, which shows at least 5 spades, at least 4 hearts, and less than 10 points. And you can have a follow-up asked to that to query, you know, what type of hand the responder actually has. Here, with a 14 count and only 4 hearts, North is probably going to just pass because they're not interested in game. But if they had more, they could ask to see whether South is min or max and judge what their contract should be accordingly. And then the last convention we talked about that comes along with minor suit openings is a spiral ask, which is over a minor major raise, using 2-0 as a way to check to see if your partner raised on 3, and if they did, what or if they didn't, what type of strength they raised on. The basic idea being that 2-0 is artificial, and then 3 clubs is like 3 bad, then 3 good, then 4 bad, then 4 good, and so on and so forth. And you can also include splinters in there as well with those 4 goods if you really wanted to. So on this hand, North would open a diamond, and South would bid a heart. North, of course, would raise to 2. Now the South hand might actually pass here. At match points, this is probably not a bad pass. 4 triple 3 11 count. I could certainly see the advantage in that. But let's say that they're playing in the BFC2, and they know they're playing against Scissors, or V8, or someone who's always going to bid game. So clearly you can't pass with this hand. You must now bid 2-0 as an ask. And now North bids 3 spades to show 4 with the max, and South could kick this to 4 hearts, which definitely has some play to it. Yep, slam alert, exactly. Alright, so that's that, and where that brings us today is we've made our way through the no trump, we've made our way through the minors and the majors. So if you go down a convention card, the next spot is the two-level openings. So that's where we're going to go. I might breeze through this pretty quickly because there's not too much to it, but we'll see where we are. So first thing to talk about is 2 clubs, the 2-club opener. I just play, you know, a normal 2-club opener, either 22 or more points or 1 trick short a game. My responses, now the responses are one of the main things that, you know, is different for each person to 2 clubs. The robots, for example, just almost always bid 2 diamonds. Or if they have a positive response, they'll bid it. They also play cheaper minor negative, but I don't really like cheaper minor negative. I think it's a bit overrated of a treatment. There's also steps, you know, steps being where you show your point count over 2 clubs. It's a little more old-fashioned, though. I don't see a lot of modern players using that response to 2 clubs. What I like to use, and I think this is kind of the norm, or, well, more so of the norm at least, is 2 diamonds as a game force, basically at least an ace, king, or 2 queens. And 2 hearts is anything besides that. It's a bust. If you wanted to show a positive hand in hearts, you can't do it with 2 hearts because it's a bust. You could use 2-0 to show that. And then if you were to bid anything else, which, based on what suit it is, I kind of advise against it. I remember a hand I had with Vreemdy the other week where I opened 2 clubs and he bid 3 diamonds to show a positive diamond hand. That's not a good bid. That's taking up way too much room when you jump to the 3 level there. So I think, you know, if you're going to bid a suit, which I would not advise jumping to do so. 3 clubs, maybe. 2 spades, sure. 2-0 to show hearts, okay. But all suit responses should show at least 8 points, at least 5 cards in the suit, and either 2 out of the top 3 or 3 out of the top 5 honors. That's the standard literature definition, and I don't see a reason why to change that. The one convention that's worth talking about with 2 club openers is Kokish. And Kokish is a way to show a very strong hand over a very strong 2 club opener, like a 25 to 27 point hand, and not have to jump to 3-0 to do it. Like in a standard 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, you would jump to 3-0 to show that hand. Well, you've taken up a lot of room to do so. You know, is Stamen on? Is Transfers on? Who really knows? I mean, it certainly makes it complicated when you take up that much room. So Kokish is a way where you can show that hand at a lower level and have all your systems available to you to gauge where you should be at a much easier spot than if you were to jump to 3-0. So what we do is over 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts is a bid that forces 2 spades. And the idea is over 2 spades, 2-0 shows a balanced 25 to 27 count, or whatever range you want to play there. If you don't play 2-0, like 2 diamond or 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, 2-0, if you don't play that as 22 to 24, and you play it as like 22 to 23, then you might play the Kokish as 24-25, but I think standard is 22 to 24 there, and therefore that should be 25 to 27. And basically, if you were to bid anything other than 2-0, that's basically just a bid showing hearts and either a second suit or just hearts. Now with that 2-0 bid being 25 to 27 and balanced, you can have all your systems on. Muppet Stamen, transfers, everything should still be on. Just like a 2-0 opening or even a 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, 2-0. And then anything else should be showing hearts and hearts in a side suit. I've seen some people play modified Kokish where the responses are a little different. Like 3 clubs is the strictly heart bid, and like 3 hearts is hearts and clubs. I don't really see a huge advantage to that. I think just regular Kokish is good enough and works just fine. Now, the one thing I don't see people talk about enough is how they handle interference to 2 club openers. Because people do interfere over 2 clubs, especially at the right vulnerability, because they want to get in your way. And if you don't have these systems in place to show these different types of hands, they can take advantage of you. So over a double of 2 clubs, the idea should be that a redouble is negative, and then like anything else is positive. Should be pass is like a pass is basically forcing there, showing a positive hand, and then like redoubling is like your bust. And then like over an overcall to 2 clubs. I guess this doesn't have to be 2x. It could be a jump to the 3 level also. Double should be negative, and then passing or doing anything else, that's a typo. That's supposed to be positive. Both of them can't be negative. I guess that's implying you just can't do anything to show a positive hand, but that's not the case. Anything else should be a positive action other than double. Double's not like penalty. It's just a bust, essentially. So that's 2 clubs. So if we go to our convention card, oh my god. Okay, moving on. Not letting that faze me. So if we were to say at least 8.5 tricks, and then we would say 2 diamonds is GF, 2 hearts is bust, 2-0 is hearts, and we play Kokish. So obviously the next logical thing is to talk about week 2s. My week 2 style, I'm not a crazy week 2 bidder. I'm not somebody who, if they see Jack 10 6 opens it. I mean, especially when vulnerable, it's dangerous. I want to place importance on suit quality. Like a suit like Queen 10 9 6 is so much better than like Jack empty 6. Hey, what's going on, Leia? Or any broken suit. The idea being, your partner is going to trust you on your preempt and is going to lead it. If you don't want them to lead away from King Dub, then don't preempt it. Like, if you open a suit like Jack 10 6 and they lead King Dub, they just broke a frozen suit. I've seen it happen way too often, so I put some importance on suit quality there, and that's just my style. Vulnerable, my values are generally suit concentrated. Of course, it should be with a better hand too. Third seat is a little more open season. It's a lot more strategic to open up light in third chair because, of course, you're consuming so much room from the opponents, especially non-bowl. Like there, I've seen people do it on like anything. That's not necessarily how I do it, but I certainly will take it a little easier. So new suit forcing. Some people play new suit as non-forcing constructive after a week 2. I don't really see a huge advantage to it. I think the forcing, I generally prefer forcing there, because after all, if you're playing it as non-forcing constructive, you're basically implying you can't trust a preempt. But you should have some trust in the preempt, which is why I think that the new suit should be forcing there. So then the next thing to talk about with week 2 openers is your 2-no bid. So with 2-no, there's a bunch of different things out there. There's feature, where you simply just respond with where you have a stopper, if you do have one in an outside suit. There's also, just standard August, which is where, you can show what kind of suit quality you have and what type of hand you have. I think that's certainly more logical because, I think if you're just playing feature, you could have a feature with any type of preempt. I think your partner would want to care more about what kind of actual hand you have. I mean, sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to know about a specific feature, but you can't have everything, unfortunately. So the only thing I like to change to August is I also want to incorporate the 5-card preempt, because 5-card suits are certainly preemptable, especially at the right colors and with the right suit. Like, if you have Ace, King, Queen, 5th of a suit and like nothing else, in first chair, I might open that hand 2 spades. If we're white, if we're non-vol. Vulnerable, that's stepping into a potential disaster, especially if your partner supports you and you get thrown into a 7-card fit. But non-vol, it's certainly not unreasonable, and you should have the appropriate structure to incorporate you doing that, because I certainly feel like, openings those types of suits on 5-baggers helps you out more in the long run, especially because it gets your partner off to a very good lead. So the idea being week 2, 2-no, the responses are 3 clubs is any hand with a 5-card suit. Obviously, if you have a 5-card suit, it should be a decent hand because you're going to have such a good suit. I mean, I'm not doing this with like anything less than Ace, King, Jack, so that's basically where all my hand is. And then basically 3 diamonds through 3 spades are then just different variants of 6-card suits. Bad, medium, and good. 3 diamonds through 3 spades. And of course, you can adjust what these bids actually mean based on vulnerability. Like, if you're vulnerable against non-vol and you're opening up a week 2 and your partner bids 2-no, you probably don't have less than like an 8 count for your preempt in the first place, because you're doing this at the wrong vulnerability. So you might, of course, say that an 8 count is a min, and then like do it that way. Or so just take that into mind, because your partner should be able to interpret your response accordingly. Like, you're not going to preempt the 6 count red on white. I saw Snake do it, but that doesn't mean everybody should follow his example. I think everybody kind of knows that by now, of course. So, and then of course 3-no, if you wanted to, could be like a solid 6-card suit. That way you're telling your partner, I've got these tricks available to you in 3-no. That's kind of like the standard thing there. So the next logical thing to talk about with week 2s is a pretty powerful convention called MCCABE. The idea being with MCCABE that you're telling your partner what kind of lead you want after they double your week 2. Like, if, say you have like Ace, King of a suit. Hey, Vulture, and congrats in the match, by the way. I can't wait to tell you about some of the things the robot did later. I'm happy to see you, though. Thanks for coming. So MCCABE is a useful convention over week 2s to show like what kind of lead you want. It also shows a suit tolerance as well for the original preempt suit. The idea being that after they double your week 2, a suit bid is lead directing with tolerance for the original preempt suit, because of course you're not going to preemptively run from a preempt, so you should have tolerance for it, because you're not going to straight away go into SOS mode. But like if you had a suit like Ace, King, 4th, and if you have Ace, King, 4th of hearts and your partner opens 2 diamonds and they double, you might bid 2 hearts. Of course it's dangerous to do that because they might end up playing hearts, but you get the idea. Your partner doesn't necessarily have to leave you in it. They could take it out to 3 of their preempt, but it just gets them off to a right lead if they're on defense. But the thing I actually use more, the thing I actually have used MCCABE more for, the more I've thought about it, is it alertable? Absolutely. Yeah, that is alertable. But the thing I use McCabe more for lately is I actually use it as a psych to block the opponents when I'm almost positive they make a game. Of course, I'm only going to pull this out non-bowl, but like if I've got like a singleton in a suit, and my partner opens 2 diamonds, and I'm looking at a stiff heart, I'm probably bidding 2 hearts just to like scare him out of playing in hearts when it's obviously their fit. Now, I should not talk about psychs. I mean, it's not like it's a good part of the game. Everybody has their own take on it. But against novices in the club, it works like a charm. So if you want a psych to add to your toolbox, McCabe is a very powerful one. Once again, only trot that out non-bowl, because you might be facing consequences if you do it bowl. So week 2s, we'll say 5 to 10. We'll say week. I won't check off the new suit non-forcing. That is alertable, by the way. People forget this, but if a new suit is non-forcing after a week 2, you have to alert it. So I'd say modified August. And then we'll also add McCabe. All right. Making our way through the card fast. That was actually all I had for this lesson, but of course that's way too short, so I'm just going to jump into the next one, because the next one isn't like an illogical continuation. So, let me just move these up. So the next thing that we want to talk about, if we're moving down the card, is other things we would put in this other conventional calls section. We have a few in here already, mainly what we talked about with the major minors, where we played Spiral Ask and Reverse Flannery, and transfers over a major double. But there's a lot more to add here. We also checked off 2-way new minor forcing. Let's see. We have to say we play 4-suit forcing. We play weak jump shifts, so always. That's always the way I play it. I don't think you should play anything otherwise. And now we just have to talk about some additional conventions that are worth discussing. First one that I like is sandwich no trump, and I've had this one a bunch of times in like my Snake games. Snake loves to use that convention for some reason, but it certainly is a reasonable one. The idea being that you show the other 2 suits after your opponents have shown 2 suits at the 1 level. Traditionally, it's only as a passed hand. Like, if you've passed and it goes 1 club on your left, pass 1 heart on your right, 1 no trump here should show the other 2 suits, spades and diamonds. And the idea being that it shows a more distributional takeout than an actual takeout double. It doesn't have to be as strong. It's probably at least 5-4, probably even 5-5. But I am going to say that instead of just applying it after you're a passed hand, I would also apply it even when you're not a passed hand. The reason being, like, if you're not a passed hand and it goes 1 club on your left, pass 1 heart on your right, is bidding 1 no trump as strong really that useful? I mean, at the end of the day, your partner's hand is already extremely limited. Like, your partner can't have that much when 2 people are bidding and you've got between 15 to 18 points. Just do the math, and they're going to come out very, very weak every single time. So I don't really see the reason for 1 no trump to actually be strong there. And so I would advocate that that should also be sandwich no trump. If you are that strong, you can certainly double and then show your hand accordingly, but I don't see a reason why it should just have its standard strong meaning there. So I apply it to not unpassed hands as well. The next convention is one I'm sure plenty of people are familiar with, Western Q bids. Western Q is a good way to check for a stopper in a suit that the opponents have overcalled when you're deciding if you should be in 3 no trump or 4 of like a different suit. Like if it goes 1 diamond, 1 spade, 2 spades showing a diamond raise. 3 spades by me should basically be saying, hey, if you have a spade stopper, bid 3 no. If not, bid 4 diamonds. You're basically saying I have a good enough hand to be in 3 no, but I don't have a spade stopper. I'm checking to see if you have one. And I know some people talk about whether that should be a full stopper or a half stopper. I think it should just be full. I think half is where a lot of confusion is thrown into the mix. I know what they say. I know people sometimes say Queen X is a stopper, but that's really never been my thing. Yeah, we sometimes do miss 3-0 when I have like Jack third, but at the end of the day, you can't have everything. And then a principle for Western cues that is worth talking about is that like if there's 2 suits unbid, bidding a suit should show a stopper in that suit and ask if the other suit is stopped. Like 1 diamond, 1 spade, 2 spades. Well, actually not that one necessarily. That's not a good one. I don't know. I can't come up with an auction in my head where that is the case, but let's just like assume, for example, that there's like 2 suits outstanding, or maybe we're just bidding these hands ourselves and figuring out, and like there's no interference, like 1 diamond, 2 diamond, or you know what? I can't think of an auction in my head, unfortunately. If it comes to me, I'll certainly let everybody know. But the basic principle when it comes to like those types of bids that ask whether you have a stopper in the suit or not is if you're only looking for 1 suit and there's like 1 suit that you're really focused on, that should be asking. But if there's like 2 suits that are worth talking about, like maybe over Michael's, for example, that might be the most. Yeah, that's definitely an auction to discuss. And that could be my answer. 1 diamond, 2 diamonds showing the majors. And let's say you play unusual over unusual, which we're about to talk about. So 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, 2 spades, which in unusual over unusual shows a good diamond raise. Now, if you were to bid 3 hearts, you should be showing a heart stopper and asking for a spade stopper. And if you were to bid 3 spades, you should be showing a spade stopper and asking for a heart stopper. That's kind of like the idea. With 2 suits, you're telling, and instead of with 1 suit, you're asking, is the basic idea there. Now, that unusual over unusual that I was talking about is actually the next convention that I wanted to bring up. The general philosophy is when they've shown 2 suits, we can use those bids for the suits that they're showing, because we're never going to play them naturally. We can use that to show strength in our 2 suits. And the idea is that when they've shown 2 suits, the other 2 suits are ours. And that should show a different amount of strength versus just bidding our suits directly. So, bidding the lower of their suits shows a limit raise or better in the lower of our suits, while bidding the higher shows limit raise or better in the higher. Low for low, high for high. And then conversely, if you just bid one of our suits directly, you're showing less than a limit raise strength. Like 1 diamond, 2 diamonds showing the majors. 3 diamonds is, weakish. Versus 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, 2 spades to show a diamond raise is much stronger, is the basic idea there. Generally, it applies over unusual 2-0 and Michael's. With Michael's, if they're just showing like the other major in a minor, you can use 2 of their major or 3 hearts. If like 1 spade, 2 spades, 3 hearts should show a limit raise or better in spades. And then the general principle that applies to all that stuff at the end of the day is that a double shows the ability to penalize at least one of their suits. That way you can get the doubling tempo started. Wolf sign-off. Wolf sign-off is a very useful convention that allows you to be able to respond a little weaker to 1-level openings because you can bail out at the 3 level and not have it like lead to a forcing auction like it necessarily might with the robots. One of a minor, something, 2-0. The idea being that 3 clubs is kind of like XYZ. It forces 3 diamonds. If you wanted to pass with a drop, you could pass that, or if you were to bid just 3 of your suit, it would be showing weak with just your suit. Like if you responded to if you responded 1 heart to 1 diamond with king empty 6 of hearts and like maybe a jack on the side. Because we don't play weak jump shifts anymore, because we play like reverse Flannery and mixed raises and everything. If you wanted to respond 1 to that, now you could use reverse, or you could use wolf sign off to bail out in 3 hearts. The one thing that you should discuss is what the meaning of the auction 1 club, or well, not necessarily 1 club, but 1x, 1y, jump to 2-0, 3 clubs, forcing 3 diamonds, 3-0. What that should mean versus 1x. 1y, 2-0, 3-0. Obviously, it's redundant, for those to be the same exact thing, so there should be a difference. I think the way Mr. ATC played it, based on what we briefly talked about when we were going over a card, the one and only time we have gone over a card, that should show slam interest in the minor that I opened, which is definitely sensible in that situation. And then, of course, instead of 3 clubs, since 3 clubs always forces 3 diamonds, you just use 3 diamonds all the time as your artificial game force. You don't play just like standard new minor forcing there. 3 diamonds is just your game force, and then the responses are basically just like XYZ. Okay, I think we're good on time, so I'm going to just keep going through this. I'm probably going to be combining 2 lessons in one. Hooray! So, Lebensal. We talked about Lebensal a while back when we were talking about no trump interference, but there's certainly a few more situations in which Lebensal traditionally applies. The other 2 main situations in which you see Lebensal apply, and there's a few situations, so I'm not just saying that there's more than this, but these are the 2 traditional ones. It's that after a double of a weak 2 and reverses are when it should be applied. The idea being that after a double of a weak 2, if you can bid the suit at the 2 level, it's weak if you have the room to do it. And if you don't, you can use 2-0 to show a weak hand. Like, usually the definition of weak in that context is like less than 9 points. If you have like anything more, you treat it as a strong response because, after all, your partner shouldn't be doubling on a complete bust. And even if they are, they certainly can still pass. Of course, you know, you have to be careful with that. You can't just, you know, do your Lebensal response with an unlimited hand because they might pass, right? Like, if it goes 2 diamonds double and you're sitting on a 13 count, you shouldn't just like bid your hand over 2-0. Like 3 clubs, for example, if you had like a 13 count with a club suit, you shouldn't just bid 3 clubs there, even though that does show a good hand, because your partner might pass it. The idea being that if you have a strong enough hand, you should always begin with a simple Q bid, because it could be passed. So that's that keynote here. Strong hands should begin with a simple Q bid, just like a general takeout double. But, you know, to show a weak hand where you couldn't bid the suit at the 2 level, you bid 2-0 and you bid the suit after your partner's forced 3 club bid. Of course, if you could bid the suit at the 2 level, then that should be invitational, like 2 hearts, double pass, 2-0, forcing 3 clubs. 3 spades should be a spade invite. Because, of course, I could have just bid 2 spades if I was weak, so that should be an invitational bid, just like we do with standard Lebensal. You know, a jump isn't necessarily forcing. It certainly shows a good enough hand. I think that all forces should begin with the Q bid. Then the next thing to talk about with Lebensal is after reverses. After reverses, if you don't like have enough points for game, like, you know, if you have like less than an 8 count, because, you know, that may not add up to what you need for game, you can go through 2-0 and then pass or correct 3 clubs, like 1 club, 1 heart, 2 diamonds, 2-0, forcing 3 clubs. You can pass that if you had like a 6 count with 3 clubs and you don't see, you know, if you don't see a game here. Of course, your partner needs to be conscientious of that and potentially break Lebensal. And breaking Lebensal, what I mean there is basically if you have too strong a hand that you're afraid that you can't, you know, you can't handle what you're going to want to do if your partner passes your 3 club bid, then you shouldn't just bid 3 clubs like you're forced to. Even though you are forced, you should find something else to do. You should, like, bid your suit or, like, bid no trump or something just to keep this auction going. Like, if you've got a monster hand that can't withstand that 3 club bid being passed, you gotta find another option than just following up with three clubs, if that makes any sense. Now with reverses, you can't stop below 2-0. So even if you have the room to bid your suit at the 2 level, yeah, it's a super reject, which romantically I'm used to all the time. So you can't stop below 2-0. So even bidding your suit at the 2 level, like a 1 club, 1 spade, 2 diamonds, 2 spades, that should be forcing. You know, if you have a weak enough hand, you should just start with 2-0. 2 spades should be a force in that situation. It gives you more room. Bidding a suit directly at the 3 level instead of going through Lebensal shows enough values for game, like 1 club, 1 spade, 2 diamonds, 3 clubs. now you're at least game going because you've not gone through Lebensaal. You're showing a good enough hand. And then once again, from a redundancy standpoint, you should have an idea for what you know, the reverse versus 2-no, 3 clubs, 3-no should mean, rather than just directly bidding 3-no. What I mean there is like an auction like 1 club, 1 spade, 2 diamonds, 2-no, 3 clubs, 3-no. Obviously, you went through Lebensaal and still bid 3-no. That should mean something completely different if you were to just jump to 3-no over to reverse. So you should have some like different auction that you have there. And yes, I have thought this through enough to have a meeting for it with some people. The way I played it is that basically, assuming that the reverser is like reversing into a major, like 1 diamond, 1 spade, 2 hearts, 2-no, 3 clubs, 3-no. That should show like 3 card support for the major that your partner, that the reverser reversed into. And then basically you're showing general weakness in the 4 suit. That way if your partner has nothing in that suit themselves, they can pull. And you might be playing in a much better 4-3 fit in the major where 3-no doesn't have a chance to make. It's kind of like the meeting that you could have to that. Of course, there's a bunch of different things. You know, it's a conversation point. The idea being you have an auction that you have a conceivable auction there where that could mean something instead of just jumping to 3-no. So you might as well have it mean something. All right, I think that's really all I wanted to cover with additional conventions. Well, actually there were more, but I think now I've actually hit a logical stopping point. So what we've talked about today is we talked about 2-level bids. We talked about the 2-club opener. Our responses, you know, Kokish as a way to show a strong hand at a lower level to keep everything in play. We talked about weak 2s and, you know, how we can use a powerful 2-no ask to weak 2s to incorporate 5-card preempts, and then MCCABE, which is a very good lead directional or psych related bid. And then we talked about some additional conventions that go down into this section. So to put them in, we have Western Q, we have Sandwich No Trump, we have Lebensaal over reverses, and then the other one goes right here over this preempt double. And then I had unusual over unusual. So we're filling in our convention card really well. Next time, I'm just going to go through like 1 or 2 more conventions here, and then we're going to start talking about overcalls, doubles, and everything else. And sooner than you think, we're actually going to have made our way through this card. We're making good time now. Whether I should be making this good amount of good time or not, I have no idea if I'm going too fast or not. But we've certainly got a decent convention card coming into play, and hopefully it makes sense. So I think that's a good stopping point. Thank you guys for being here. I will clip this and put this on YouTube. You can find that on my YouTube channel using the YouTube command. The notes are in my Discord channel, which you can find using the Discord command. And yeah, next lesson is Monday. Thank you, Rusty. Thanks for enjoying it. All right.